Our pioneer presentation is on Vygotsky. I'm Summer Raney, and our other group members are Courtney and Kindra Redix. His theory was a socioculture theory of cognitive development. Cognitive development in early childhood is advanced through social interactions with other people, particularly those who are more skilled. Vygotsky proposed that social learning comes before cognitive development in children, and that children construct knowledge actively. His early life, Lev Simonovich Vygotsky, was born on November 5th or 17th, 1896 in the town Orsha, Belarus. I put the 5th or the 17th because on multiple websites I found the 5th, and then on the other ones I found the 17th, so I just wanted to cover all the bases and have the right date. He was the second oldest of 8 children. His parents, Simka and Cecilia, were well-educated Jews. When he was 1, his family moved from Orsha to Gomel. The family lives in one of the few designated provinces for Russians of Jewish descent. His father was a bank manager, while his mother was a trained teacher. She chose to be a full-time homemaker. And as a child, Vygotsky was taught by his mother to care for the other children, but the children all shared equally in the household chores. Vygotsky's parents were fluent in a number of languages and were very keen on giving him a good education. The family would discuss history, literature, theater, and art after dinner, which exposed Vygotsky to a wide range of interests. Vygotsky homeschooled until he was 14, but he was also taught by a private tutor named Solomon Ashpes, who taught him mathematics. The life of a Jew in Russia was limited in terms of places to live, study, and work. In his early professional and personal life, Vygotsky wished to train as a teacher, but this was not an option for Jews in Russia before the revolution. Vygotsky enrolled in medicine, as this profession allowed Jews to practice outside the pale of Jewish settlements. The Moscow University accepted Jewish students according to a ballot, but their entry was limited to 5%. He was lucky enough to gain a place. When he decided medicine was not for him, he transferred to law. So he also enrolled in a Jewish public university to study philosophy and history. Then Vygotsky graduated from Moscow University with a law degree in 1917. By the time he left school, he was fluent in German and French, and able to read Hebrew, Latin, Greek, and English. He returned to Gomel in 1917 to teach and continue his reading on psychology and education. He spent years as a school teacher in Gomel. He married Rosa Simkova in 1924, and the couple had 2 daughters, Asia and Gita. He worked as the head of the psychology lab at the Teachers Training Institute, and he also gathered the information he needed for his doctoral thesis. In 1925, he earned his doctoral degree after completing his thesis titled The Psychology of Art. Vygotsky had spent 10 years conducting research at the institute.
Vygotsky had 3 developmental theories. The first one was constructivism. It is an approach which enables learners to construct their knowledge on their own. In classrooms, students actively cooperate to solve problems, test hypotheses, investigate, discuss, debate, and create their own unique learning experiences. The main role of the teacher in constructivist classrooms is to provide a suitable learning environment that facilitates students' learning and cooperation inside the class. The second development theory is more knowledge other. It's the teacher or mentor who mentors the students until they reach their learning goals. It will not be possible for learners to achieve their learning goals or pass the ZPD without mentoring. The third is the zone of proximal development. It is the zone between what the learner knows or can learn on his or her own, and the zone where the learner cannot learn, even with the help of the MKO. Deviation from the ZPD will lead to students' boredom and frustration if the level of information received was too low or too high. Piaget was born, lived, and studied in Neuchâtel, Switzerland. He graduated as a scientist and gained a doctorate. Piaget was a biologist who was interested in epistemology, the study of knowledge, essentially studying how human beings construct their knowledge and knowing. He also studied psychology, which clearly influenced his research and future writing about child development. The importance of Piaget's work continues to influence developmental psychology, early childhood education, and care throughout the world. How Piaget influenced Vygotsky. He developed the theory of cognitive development. He believed that children experience 4 developmental stages. Those stages are sensomotor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operation stage. The sensomotor stage is birth to 2 years old. The pre-operational stage is 2 to 7 years old. The concrete is 7 to 11 years old. And the formal is 11 years to adulthood. He said that learning involves a child initiating discovery and development. The child begins this process and uses a hands-on approach to learning, and this is the best way for a child to learn. Vygotsky mostly agreed with Piaget. Only, Vygotsky believed that the setting in which a child learns requires social interaction and communication. While Piaget's theory makes sense, it also makes sense that a child needs social interactions with others for the learning to be solidified, so it can become a base for the child to learn even more advanced knowledge.
And death. Vygotsky was a prolific writer while conducting research at the Institute. He published 6 books on psychology topics over a 10-year period. His research was diverse but centered around child development and education. Vygotsky believed that human development sprouted from dynamic interactions between society and the individuals in it. Vygotsky died on June 11, 1934, at 37 from tuberculosis. Even though he died so young, he's still considered a formative thinker whose work is still being discovered today. Vygotsky's influence on teaching today. So I looked online for these, but I also thought about ways that I use his theories in my classroom as well. So they're still used in many aspects of the classroom today. One of the big ones is zone of proximal development. So just as a refresher, that's what a child can do independently and assisted by an adult. This is essential for teachers to know each child's zone of proximal development for many reasons. It's definitely a unique thing for each student, and it's important for the educator to understand their zones for each child. The first reason is for scaffolding. You need to know what they can and can't do on their own. Without knowing that and giving them a task that's either too high or too low, they could easily get bored or frustrated. It's big with classroom organization, so that's how to organize your small groups for your classroom, like having a group of students at a high level in a group together and your lower level kids. That way you can scaffold them and cater towards their specific zones. And for seating in the classroom, in my classroom I put normally 2 kids at a higher level on one side of the table and 2 kids at a lower level on one side of the table, so they can learn from each other and bring about new ideas and theories in the learning. Another big one is for engagement. So you need to understand what is beyond their reach and what is below their reach. If you give them something that is way too high and out of their zone, their eyes are going to glaze over within your lesson. And if you give them something too low, they're going to be bored, which could cause misbehavior in your room. And the last big one is for assessment. You need to understand their zones for assessment, because if you're testing a child on something that's way out of their zone, then they're going to get frustrated and discouraged. It's so important to assess them in the way that caters towards their specific zones. And then the other big one is constructivism. So students learn by social interactions together. This is big in scaffolding. The teacher should be seen as the facilitator or guide in the room, meaning they should never just tell kids the answers. They should ask questions and guide them towards the right way to go. Scaffolding is something that is used in every single lesson. It can be from calendar time to math time at the end of the day. Guiding them towards the correct path will help them really stick with what they're learning. It makes them feel responsible for their learning. It strongly encourages social times in the classroom. One big thing that I see a lot of time in lessons and just in classrooms in general is turn and talk, where they turn and talk to their neighbor or to their group members. They'll usually do a lot of questioning. The teacher may model this, which is where collaborative learning comes in, by modeling and asking questions. One I can think of off the top of my head is reading a book and asking the students what to turn and tell their neighbor what might be happening next in the book. You see that all the time, and them forming these ideas and learning together makes them more creative and more liable to remember the information that you're using. I think it's so important to use these theories within your lesson as much as possible. And then this is our bibliography. Thank you.